Hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, D stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have Alparos-Lilah's Mirror Flash Fiction. So we'll be covering two stories today. Home, Sweet Home, and The Blue-Eyed Reflection. Both of which are by Niklas Alparos-Lilah, which, according to their creepypasta wiki page, they're pretty prolific in terms of their writing. Like, they've got long stories, they've got short stories, and then they've got their flash fiction, which is what these stories are, which are stories under 1,000 words.
Really thought you were going to say they have some long stories, short stories, some as big as your head.
Oh, that would have been too good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shame
no,
who
you
said that.
Yeah, no. It's a shame it's not on recording.
Yeah.
And this is totally not getting edited out at all.
No, of course not.
Future me here, this didn't get edited out. So yeah, these stories are on creepypasta.wiki. So you can check them out there. And I suppose before we start, we'll do an initial recommendations, one story at a time. So so for Home Sweet Home, I'm going to partially recommend it.
How dare you?
I'm not going to recommend it.
I'm going to partially recommend it.
How fucking dare you? You goddamn copy pasta.
Yeah. I'm the copy host.
Well, let's find out why we gave it partial recommendations and then one of us gave it a non-recommendation. Starting with the rundown featuring The Rock. So Nair was in a car accident and is recovering from amnesia.
By the way, were we going to do the bit from here on forward? Like when you say onto the rundown with The Rock, we were going to replace Nair with The Rock in all creepypastas.
I totally gagged about that shit.
Do you want to do that?
Okay, yeah. It's like, yeah. Yeah. So The Rock, because we never get a name, so they're now The Rock.
Yeah. It's so stupid.
Was in a car accident and is recovering from amnesia. Get it together, cultist. So now, like, cause I don't know how good this bit is gonna work because I'm just gonna start laughing because I'm now like visualizing every
The Rock
every narrator who we don't get a name as Dwayne The Rock Johnson in all these different roles, regardless of age and sex.
Yeah, simply because he was in a movie called The Rundown.
Yeah, so I apologize in advance for how critically silly we're gonna hit critical mass of silliness. Moving forward, apparently.
Mm-hmm. If it's stupid, we'll go back to the old thing, but we're trying something new.
Yeah, we're gonna try this. Yeah. So The Rock was in a car accident and is recovering from amnesia. While going over things at home, trying to recall like short-term or like fragments of memory that they don't recall from, like they recovered from the long-term memory, but there are things in their past that they don't recall. And so while they're going over things, trying to kind of recollect why the importance of these things, they find an earring and put it on on their left ear after their mom tells them that she used to wear one as part of her style. Then after going through more things, she notices in a reflection, to some strange horror, that her reflection has the earring in the opposite ear that it should. Then her mom came into the room and noticed that the earring was on the wrong ear, assuming that The Rock had simply put it in the wrong ear. Can I say ear more times? We'll find out.
No.
The next day, though, in front of a proper mirror, The Rock saw that the earring she was now wearing in the left ear was showing to be in the right ear in the reflection. Again, clear as day. Feeling compelled to correct that issue, The Rock moved the earring to her right ear, but not once did her reflection follow her movement. It just stood there, staring at her and smiling, while rubbing her right ear. Finn. So, now that that's out of the way, I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grime Inquisitions. At this point, Mikey, do you have anything?
I have an it story.
Ooh. And now, an it story with Mikey. The E stands for evil. Take it away.
It started as I was unpacking my stuff the other day. It was like your own unique style of wearing earrings, she said, insistent that I've spent years wearing only one earring. It looked like I had an earring in it, reflecting the sunlight. It was not just a distorted reflection in the window. Finn.
Oh no. It was somebody on the other side of the window that looks exactly like her.
Alternate situation.
Yeah. Oh god, alternates.
Hey, that person's my exact double. Oh, and that dog has a puffy tail. Here, poof. Here, poof. Oh, Simpsons.
Yep.
Hey.
Game, are you going to do the end? Yeah.
No, I'm not. And for those unaware, Mikey does these strings of sentences to put together all the sentences in a story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Indeed. So, Gamer, do we have any grammar in yellow?
No.
Okay. Then let's move on to actual thoughts. So, I'm actually going to start with the image. It's sort of a vague visual representation of the story to me. It's a girl smiling rather creepily and with like a bunch of like creepy kind of makeup, almost like a kind of a, I guess like a, it's almost like a
situation.
Harley Quinn kind of, like Harley Quinn kind of gothic kind of look to me. And there's a mirror behind her that's with the exact same reflection, except it's definitely not the same reflection because like it's also looking looking at the audience or the viewer. In the same way as the one that's outside of the mirror. So
meanwhile, it should just be showing the back of her head.
Exactly, yeah. And like, I kind of understand why like this image was chosen. It was, but I think if the non-reflection person was not smiling, that might make it better as a representation for the story. Because like, at no point does Arnair feel comfortable or is like infected by the reflection person. So like, why are they also smiling creepily?
Yeah.
Also, there's no like we can't even see their ears or the earrings. So like that makes it just doesn't really fit the like it kind of is a not I don't know, like a it's sort of a deception of like what we're expecting in the story. Now, mind you, it is a catchy image because I mean, like, it's one of the reasons I caught wind of the story because I saw it like the title card of this while I was like looking over some other stories. But it is kind of deceiving.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought it was going to basically be spoilers.
Yeah,
but it's not really because it doesn't really have much to do with it aside from the fact that there's a girl in a mirror in this.
That and the mirror reflection is not the same as her regular reflection. That's it. Yeah. Mike, you had something?
Yeah, well, my issue like is that there is no earring.
Yeah.
Like the whole story focuses on the earring. You expect there to be an earring in the picture, but there isn't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was kind of a when I read the story and then like I looked back at the image, like that's kind of a letdown. Like I was expecting this to be like her to like get like, oh no, she's been possessed by like now she's gonna like her mom comes into the room and it's like, honey, are you okay? And it's like, yes, I'm fine. And she turns around and the reflection stays the same.
Yeah,
like they're identical and they're creepy smiling, but they're we don't get that. So it's like, maybe that happened after she put the earring back into the right ear. Like maybe she was being in the process of being possessed, but the story ends too soon before that happens. Maybe. So, yeah. So
also, that would be spoiler territory if it was a 1-to-1 situation at the end of the story as the images.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of a letdown. But I'm moving away from the image and back to the actual story itself. I will start with this quote here. Today, after I woke up, I mistakenly put the earring in my left ear again. And as I was brushing my teeth, the reflection once again had it in the right ear. It was not just a distorted reflection in the window. This time, it was a crystal clear image in the mirror, showing the earring in my reflection's right ear. My eyes were wide open, and I found myself compelled to put the earring into my right ear, terrified even to blink. The reflection simply stood still as I was doing it. Now it's in my right ear, and I'm staring at my reflection's dreadful grin as it strokes its right ear. ... So, this could be supernatural, or it could all be in the character's head. And I definitely want to lean it in the territory of being supernatural rather than a psychosis. But the story is very short, like it is barely a page and a half. And it ends on this sort of like cliffhanger of sorts, or like it ends on this zinger, I do in quotes. And I think this could get fleshed out even further with either the mirror rock becoming a more actively noticeable in reflections. Maybe the rock tries to record the reflection or tries to tell their mother to like come in and see it, only for it to assume the normal appearance. But then as soon as the camera / mother is out of the picture, it resumes its independence of the rock, i.e. the character. Could be her old self trapped in her mind, like another persona sort of thing. Like could be another her in another reality that, as a result of the accident, has left the rock, like their mind open to seeing through reflections to other worlds. And then they just now have to deal with those like consequences of that, or the circumstances. I do think that if this did get an elaboration, my vote would definitely lean toward like a more supernatural element, like the alternate reality rather than a psychosis, simply because every time I see these sorts of themes pop up in stories or films, it is very more than not, they end up leaning hard into it was all in the character's head kind of trope. Yeah. And I'm just kind of sick of that. Like, give me like, it's a story, it's a piece of fiction. Give me the fantastic. Like I've seen too many stories that like they try to like use the psychosis to make it more like feel more real, and it's like nah dog. Gotta amp up the weird and spooky. Yeah, the thing for me with this story is like it's a piece of flash fiction. The author has a bunch of these kind of stories that they just like they write just to kind of get down and post. And I've even read in some of the comments that like they do have some ideas to like elaborate and flesh out some of these stories later, and so they're always accepting of critique and like constructive criticism for their stories to kind of give them help like how they would elaborate and such. So congrats, you're getting that. Alparos-Lilah. I hope I'm saying that right. But probably not. But
never say things right.
Yeah, because we are dumb English-speaking Canadians. But yeah, I liked the reason I kind of like partially recommend this story is because like I like what it was doing, but there's not enough here, and it just kind of ends when it was getting good. Mm-hmm. And if this was to get elaborated on, I would kind of like the story to kind of go more into a supernatural bend than a psychosis bend. So that's honestly all I really have for this story, because again, like there's not a whole lot here. So yeah, that is my actual thoughts for this story. So Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. Well, I took this the super mundane way.
Of course.
And you mentioned the part with the ear, so I'm just gonna have another portion of the ear. Today, after I woke up, I mistakenly put the earring in my left ear again, and as I was brushing my teeth, the reflection once again had it in the right ear. That's how mirrors work.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I thought that too, and I was gonna give the story the benefit of the doubt. It's like, okay, they're obviously mean that like it's in the ear that it shouldn't be in the reflection, but it does sound like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with you on that. Like it does that may need to be like fixed. For proper clarity of the situation, because it's like the characters just like really like they've had a hard time of it lately, so they're just terribly confused by how reflections work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, something along the lines of like it's in the wrong ear. Like the problem is the use of left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like that's just the major issue that I had with it is like, well, every time they state that she put in her left ear, inflection head in the right ear, it's like, well, again, that's just how it works. Like she had amnesia, so and it's a legit version of amnesia.
Yeah.
Not the Hollywood version.
Yeah.
Because she was in a car accident, which she lost a chunk of her memory.
What's the difference between a Hollywood and real?
Hollywood tends to make it like tends to fictionalize some of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hollywood tends to go too far.
Yeah.
Like forgetting their name and different aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's a TV show on was it Amazon that I watched I think 5 episodes, and I've nicknamed it Amnesia the show.
That's like all
Because
it is.
I swear every reveal at the end of the episode is that someone else has amnesia.
Oh, jeez.
And the show is called Citadel. So I couldn't help but laugh every time someone else has amnesia.
They're actually all at a support group.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things is that they had a support group, and one of the people that like they met at the support group, they got together even though they forgot who they were, so that they were like coworkers beforehand, got amnesia, and then had a support group,
God.
and then uh, basically had a family, and then now people are beginning to remember things, and it's like, what
Jeez.
the heck?
Yeah.
So it just taking amnesia to the nth degree is that show.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay. Gamer.
Yeah, the only note I have left is from this quote here. As I was brushing my teeth, the reflection once again had it in its right ear. I'm not talking about left and right. Hang on. It was not just a distorted reflection of the window. This time it was crystal clear image of the mirror showing the earring in my reflection's right ear. My eyes were wide open. I found myself compelled to put the earring into my right ear, terrified to even think. The reflection simply stood still as I was doing it. So, for this, I kind of wish it was a bit clearer for the fact that the reflection was not doing what Nair was doing. Sorry, what the Rock was doing. I don't know if we're going to keep this bit or not.
This bit might be harder to do.
Yeah, because like the ear thing, like I mentioned it before when Mikey brought it up. I'm not gonna bring that part up again, but like the eyes being like wide open and like that isn't necessarily something weird, saying that the eyes were wide open in the reflection, because her eyes could be wide open too. You know,
Like she could also
Yeah.
like, but she has like a different kind of excitement. It's like, oh my god, like I don't know.
yeah, like basically everything in the reflection isn't necessarily what she isn't doing. Like it's not hammering home that the reflection is doing something different until the very end where it says the reflection simply stood still while I was doing it.
Yeah.
But reacting to the reflection before, there's really nothing that says it's different until the end, which is kind of a problem I have with this.
Yeah.
Because basically some quotes early on would be nice to say how like to say how still it is. Like, is this reflection frozen like a picture?
Oh god.
Or is it just like the expression is frozen in place, but the head is still following how Nair moves in the reflection? Like, there's no Nair trying to like rationalize what's going on, like trying to check to see if it's working, quote unquote, right? You know?
Yeah. Like if she like turned like she walked away from the mirror a little bit, but the reflection stayed in the same place, and she could actually like see around it and such like that, like in the reflection.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like that would be fucking creepy. Like honestly, that's just so creepy. Yeah, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically there's a lot of things that rationally you would do in this situation that aren't done. Granted, she's freaking out a little bit, but still, it's not clarified how the weirdness is weird.
Yeah.
Aside from just the earrings specifically. Meanwhile, the whole thing is supposed to be.
Yep.
Also, I assume that this is the real reason why Nair only wears one earring. That there's some spirit or double personality in them, or whatever it is. Basically, traumatized her into only wearing the one because that's what it wanted the whole time.
Well, I mean, she says in the story that like she did because of or her mom said that like she did because of a kid, like a boy said that she looked cool wearing just one at a birthday party.
Okay. So, you think that her mother would not put her in a mental institution if she told her the truth? So she made up that lie to the mother.
I guess. So sure.
Then she wouldn't ask any questions because there's some split personality or spirit or whatever the hell is going on possessing her body and hassling her to only wear it in the one ear like it wants.
I guess. Yeah, sure.
That's the way I'm seeing it. And like, yes, she lost her memory and all that. So she's having to having to find out this fact again that there is some weird supernatural thing going on with her that she can't really tell other people about because who's going to believe her?
That's fair. Like I think that would be really cool if she said like this unlocked her memory of like it wasn't because of the birthday. It was because like I've always seen this version of me in the reflection, or like I've always seen this thing in the back of like that like this thing like trying to keep me in line with it or something like that.
Yeah, like I wrote this in my final thoughts, but it'd be nice if the ender was basically something saying like, I think the story that I told my mother was a lie, which
that
basically
would be
implies that this is why it's not because of some boy.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Yeah, I do like that because again, it adds it amps up the supernatural element here.
Yeah. But that's it for my notes.
Okay.
And I just remembered something.
How dare you?
So, the issue of ear piercings.
Uh-huh.
So, if she always kept it to one ear, why is her other ear pierced?
The mother says that she uses two for social events and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it was originally pierced, but she only uses the one most of the time.
Unless there's like a special thing, yeah.
Mm.
But the thing with that is that like if you don't use the piercing, it will sort of heal over itself.
Yeah. So like there could have been like a bit in this where like it said that like when she put it in her left ear, she realized she was bleeding. To show that like, oh, why am I bleeding? Like put it in this ear.
Or it's like really tight to get it in for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a bit more clarification would be nice.
Sure. Yeah. But I guess we'll move on to final thoughts for Home, Sweet Home. And the reason I say Home, Sweet Home, like I've been differentiating it that way because there is actually another creepypasta on the wiki that's Home Sweet Home without a comma.
Oh, okay.
So you need to actually look up Home, Sweet Home for this story. So, but yeah, on to final thoughts. Yeah, partial recommendation still. It's a decent piece of flash fiction, like given the context that it was written as a piece of like flash fiction, so like it's fine as it is, but like all things, I must have more. And I think that it could be, and nothing is perfect, I except for Who Was Phone. So I think this story would actually be way better if it was elaborated on to add up the horror aspect of it. So that's why I'm partially recommending it. Mikey, these stands for evil.
Well, I found it super mundane.
Yeah.
With the she just doesn't recognize her own reflection, and I mean could very simply be that her amnesia caused her to not recognize herself because of the fact that you change a lot in 6 months, a year, whatever. So, like, the normal day-to-day stuff, you don't notice, but when there's a 6-month gap in your memory, you might not realize that the person in the mirror is you.
Yeah, she could be disassociating right now. So,
yeah,
which is a thing that happens when you during times of trauma and such. So,
yeah. So, overall, I didn't find it creepy, so I'm still not recommending it.
Fair enough.
How dare you?
I do always, every time you guys like you rain on my parade like that, like I always just like want to take that D&D movie quote. It's like, you're not a lot of fun, are you? Or it's like, or you must be fun at parties. I'm not. I don't mean to say like I respect your opinion. Honestly, I do. It's just every time that's like in the back of my head, it's like, you're not a lot of fun, are you?
I mean, sometimes stories just kind of get like it's happened to me where I see some mundane aspect and I can't unsee it.
I know,
so
yeah.
Anything that follows that is just mundane, you know.
Yeah,
so I totally get it.
It sullies the story, and I totally get it too. And like again, more. I also want to preface like as many times as you ruin a story with mundanity, Mikey, you
Change
make
a story by making it mundane.
You can make it so much better with a suggestion. So, like, yeah, you have the power to create and destroy. Is what I'm saying. But all right, gamer, your final verdict.
Well, again, mine's probably still going to stay a partial because the concept of this is interesting. Like the fact of amnesia itself is scary. Like there's a latent fear in that idea of losing your memories and wondering, like, if the stuff you're remembering is real, if these people are actually real. You know,
who can you trust? There's a whole genre of horror devoted to amnesia, or to losing your memory stuff. So yeah.
But for me, I just wish the mirrors were a bit clearer, pun intended, because like that's where the confusion of this is for me during my read. Like the left and right description, of course, of the alternate face, but also like as I mentioned before, some sort of ending to tie it into the story that she told her mother, like saying that she made that story up because of this creature. You know what I'm saying? Like the more I'm starting to remember, the more I wish I just forget or whatever, you know. There's
the more I wish I hadn't remembered.
Yeah. There's basically ways to say that this creature, whatever it is, this whatever's going on in the mirror has impacted her entire life. and she's just getting reacquainted with it, and that is the reason she does the one earring, just to satisfy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like that clarification. With that clarification and the left-right change to the wrong side of the ear, then it would be a full recommendation. But as it stands, partial.
Okay. So basically, not a partial recommendation, 2 partial recommendations, and a non-recommendation for this one piece of flash fiction. So I suppose we'll move on to the next piece of flash fiction, The Blue-Eyed Reflection, also by Niklas Alparos-Lilah. So initial recommendation for this one, I'm going to give it a recommendation, like a full recommendation.
Let me think here.
We do have to
Partial recommendation.
Okay.
And I will also give it a full recommendation.
What is happening?
Kind of expected.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in and find out why with the rundown featuring The Rock. Except we have a name for the narrator, or for the character. Her name is Jennifer. So when Jennifer was young, she was afraid of the dark and her reflection. Only one of those fears went away completely as she grew up. Even now, as an adult, Jennifer would feel like she was being watched and that something in the mirror might grab her. One day, she was getting ready for bed and using her bathroom mirror when her reflection's eyes changed, switching from dark brown to bright blue. She became mesmerized by the stare they gave off, and even stranger, the reflection's lips began to move of their own volition, as though trying to say something. Jennifer leaned in towards the mirror to see if she could hear what it was saying, and she freaked out when she heard it say in a very faint voice, her name. Jennifer fled from the bathroom and spent the rest of the night in bed, but awake, wondering what the hell was going on. Weeks passed, and Jennifer tried to avoid mirrors as much as possible. But then while brushing her teeth, she noticed her reflection in the mirror and jumped back, as not only were her eyes blue, but her reflection was now smiling, and she wasn't. She stumbled and scattered some toothbrushes and toothpaste on the ground, and as she was picking them up, she heard by her ear, "Come back and play, Jennifer. Come back and play." All of Jennifer's mirrors are now covered by sheets and blankets, and she avoids all reflections. But every so often at night, Jennifer hears the voice calling out to her to come play. Finn. So, I suppose, again, we'll move on to everyone tell us the grammar. Mike, do you have anything for grammar inquisition?
I have a conjunction junction.
Okay. Insert conjunction junction bit here.
But there was something else that she had always found unsettling. Her reflection in the mirror. But as she grew older, she learned to ignore those childish fears and accept that her reflection was just a reflection. But no matter how hard she blinked or rubbed her eyes, the blue-eyed reflection remained, staring back at her with those piercing blue eyes. And then something strange started to happen. And that's when she heard it. And it wasn't just a hallucination or a dream. It was real. But that didn't stop her from feeling like she was being watched. But this time, it was different. It was smiling, unlike Jennifer. And sometimes, when Jennifer was lying in her bed at night, she could hear the faint voice calling out to her, "Come back and play, Jennifer. Come back and play." Finn.
Thank you, Mikey, for that even more abbreviated version of the rundown.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like that, there wasn't a whole lot else to yeah, that's basically a more concise, efficient rundown.
Yeah. And again, for those unaware, Mikey.
The reason why Mikey,
the Mikey grabs sentences in the story that start with its ands and buts because there's always better words to use, and when you put them together into a string of sentences, sometimes it has hilarious results, and sometimes it summarizes the story better than the rundown.
Yeah, better than cultists. Better than cultists paraphrasing. Yeah. So, Gamer, do you have anything for Grammar in Yellow this time?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, these stories are like not. I mean, aside from the conjunction junctions aside, and apart from some clarity, these stories do seem to be really well grammatically written.
Yeah,
for the most part. Like we didn't have any problem really actually reading these stories, reading these stories.
You read quite well.
And as we move on to the actual thoughts here, so this is also going to deviate from the previous story because in that story I really didn't have a whole lot to say other than like what I did say and like it's like one or two quotes. This one I have a little bit more to say than that one. And they actually kind of connect in a way too, like between this story and that story. Or I have like an idea between the kind of like maybe help both stories together, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Starting with the start of my actual thoughts here. The image for this one. This image is pretty good as a title card representation of the creepypasta because it's a simple and effective. It's an image of a blue eye or of an eye that is blue, like a human eye, and it's like, boom, perfect. Like, doesn't give a whole lot away of the story other than the topic at hand in the story.
Also, the title itself does that.
Exactly, so that too.
Yeah. It's not like it spoils anything.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I imagine sometimes like these title cards are used as like for like maybe the format of like the wiki itself and such, because I've noticed like a lot of the wikis tend to have like when you're like looking through some of the I guess the listings or the archive of like different stories, often they'll use the image any images that accompany the story as like a title card for the story. So it kind of acts as like a nice little like a neat little cover for the short story. But yeah.
My note on the image is that it would be neat if it was a GIF and the eye switched from blue to brown and back and forth type thing.
That's what I was talking about earlier, Mikey. You can ruin one thing and then you can make things better in the next with a simple suggestion. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like that would actually be like, that's how you fix this. that's how you make that image even better. Make it a GIF. Yeah.
That spoil a little bit though? It shows what's happening in the story.
Except I think it's brought up like immediately in the story though, isn't it? Like second paragraph, at least.
Yeah, I guess it's not necessarily the twist at the end because it's her dealing with it throughout the story. So yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, moving away from the image, I'm going to start with this quote here. She used to think that monsters were lurking behind the glass, waiting to drag her into another world. And then later in the story, Jennifer couldn't tear her gaze away from the mirror. She felt like she was being hypnotized, drawn into her reflection's gaze. And then something strange started to happen. Her reflection's lips moved, but Jennifer couldn't hear any sound. She leaned closer to the mirror, trying to make out what her reflection was saying. And that's when she heard it. Or rather, that's when the thing mirroring her face pulled Jennifer through the mirror into another world, just like her childhood fears.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, like I thought that was a nice little bit. Like I thought that might have been like might have been like a little bit of cool like foreshadowing. It's like her little fears as a child, kind of coming back to bite her in the ass as an adult.
Yeah, I was right all along. Ah!
Oh, or it's like I was like, whoa, hi. This is actually pretty nice. Fortunately, she can't understand her mirror self because now that she's in that world, it's all reverse speech.
Yep.
Or she only talks in reverse speech. I don't know. Yeah, I just thought that was like a nice little. Like, it felt like that could have been like a nice little like kind of flashback or like a throwback to what was said earlier in the story about her childhood fears. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. One day, many years later, as Jennifer was getting ready for bed, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She stared into her own eyes, and that's when she noticed it. Her reflection's eyes were bright blue. Jennifer blinked, thinking it was just a trick of the light. So this is, I guess, kind of a connective tissues time.
Okay.
But it's not a connective tissues time from my own experience. It's actually me connecting tissues between this story and the previous one. So, if this story and Home Sweet Home were to be combined together, this could be something that happened before the accident in Home Sweet Home. And the mirror reflection has shifted its differences from eyes to ear accessories. Maybe the accident was a result of Jennifer looking into the rearview mirror or side mirror and seeing the other self.
Oh,
that's right. The Rock / Nair / the actual character the narrating character in Home Sweet Home could be Jennifer.
Yeah, that's just the role that the Rock is playing.
Yeah.
Her name is Jennifer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So that's my connective tissues. Like, I think this story, and I chose the first one because that's the one I found first, and then I went in to look at the author's other stories, and found that they actually have a couple of stories about reflections and stuff like that and mirrors. So I chose this one, completely not realizing what material I was in for the second story, and realizing this would actually, if these two flash fictions were combined to make a larger story, this one would be perfect as as a prelude to the previous one. Maybe even have Home Sweet Home start first, and then this come up with a transition of her remembering the memories prior to the car accident.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest as well.
Yeah, again, to kind of go a little bit memento on the story, where it's or a little, I hate to say it, gamer, a little media res.
How dare you? I wouldn't hate it though, honestly, because it's not the kind of media res where I'm completely confused forever. And
it's a media res that does explain itself.
Even if I am thrown into media res in this sort of situation, it makes sense because the character can't remember. So why
exactly. So that's my little bit of connected, trying to connect this story and kind of maybe as some creative suggestion to the author if they ever hear this. Maybe take these two these two flash fictions you have, and combine them to make a larger short story. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Jennifer knew she had to get out of there. She turned away from the mirror and ran out of the bathroom, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she lay in bed staring up at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what was happening. So I honestly thought when it's she had to get out of there, she turned away and ran out of the bathroom. I honestly thought she was gonna run farther than her bed. Oh God, what's happening? I need to get out. I need to get away from the mirror. Well, time for bed.
She's away from the mirror. The mirror is where the house.
I know.
It's like a video game creepypasta. You turn the screen off and you're fine.
I know. I just expected her the way it was
Leave
it was
the
written.
house is what you want.
Yeah. Flee the house, maybe call somebody or something. I didn't expect her to just oh God, I gotta get out of this. I gotta get out of this bathroom and into my bed.
Under the covers.
Yeah, I and honestly, maybe even that should have been added because or her hiding me under the covers or something like that, so that she couldn't see the reflection of the mirrors. That I assume it's. I kind of thought weird because I always assume that a bedroom will have a mirror. But that's just I guess a personal opinion on bedrooms. So she's
mirror in your bedroom. Is there a mirror in yours?
There's a full size my closet door is a mirror.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Now that people know what my closet mirror know about my closet mirror, let's move on. How else am I going to know how else am I going to know what my cloaks look like?
Yeah, exactly. Slowly over all the years of doing these recordings, the viewers at home will be able to piece together what your room looks like.
A strong visual for my room.
Yeah, super important.
Yeah, thanks, gamer.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so that I just thought it was because it was like, like I imagine her like running out of the room and then immediately slowing down, just like hopping to bed. Like it kind of came off a little comedic to me, the way I visualized it. But again, I think the suggestion that like maybe if she got in bed and hid under the covers like like her childhood days, maybe that could have been like an added part to like kind of tie in her like childhood fear coming back to bite her.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of teeth, then one night, as Jennifer was brushing her teeth, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror. But this time, it was different. Her reflection wasn't just staring back at her with those bright blue eyes. It was smiling, unlike Jennifer. She screamed and stumbled back, knocking over her toothbrush holder. As she scrambled to pick up the scattered toothbrushes and tubes of toothpaste, she heard a faint voice whispering in her ear, "Come back and play, Jennifer. Come back and play." So, I don't really know why Jennifer is, because as the story goes on, like she's like puts all like these sheets over the mirrors, and she avoids all reflections even when she's outside. I don't understand why Jennifer is freaked out long term by this. Like the reflection, all the reflection has done is look cheerful and say, "Come back and play." And I think
because it's fucking insane to
the
think that that's actually happening.
Short term, yes, but if it keeps happening, you either have to admit yourself to psychiatric help,
Yeah.
or maybe start trying to form some kind of like. If you keep seeing it, and it keeps trying to like start a conversation with you, if you haven't submitted yourself to a psychiatric help, and you're actually talking to this either delusion or this other thing in the mirror, like the thing I think the thing that's getting me with this is that like this like it isn't actually describing the smiling reflection with blue eyes as anything sinister. It's just it's smiling and saying, "Come back, Jennifer," or "Come back and play, Jennifer." So like it kind of gave me the idea that like maybe this is Jennifer, like maybe back when she was a child, she had an imaginary friend that lived in the mirror. Like Niece Cultist did actually, when she was younger, she would say that she had an imaginary friend who lived in the mirror. It was her sister in the mirror, Bloody Mary.
Oh, okay.
And like it was a little creepy, but also like just like a harmless little thing. But like, what if this is like an imaginary friend that Jennifer had as a child? And maybe something happened in her childhood that like scared her about the reflection. That's why she has the fear of the reflections from her childhood. But that's how she recalls it. And it's just this forgotten imaginary friend that is trying to make contact again with Jennifer after all these years. Yes, I'm proposing the start of a buddy horror.
Hell yeah.
with Jennifer,
buddy horror.
Yeah, with Jennifer just overreacting initially, not unlike E.T., the extraterrestrial. You're welcome, Adam. Where at the start of the movie, it kind of plays off a little bit like a horror movie, and then as Elliot and the audience gets to know E.T. a little bit more, it becomes more of a family film. Like, because they realize both of them were afraid of each other, or like one of them overreacted. Because they didn't have they didn't have the line of communication between each other. But yeah, like I think like this honestly could almost open up into like a horror thing. Start off as a horror like it is right now, like it's proposed, where like she's freaking out because her reflection's talking to her or trying to communicate with her, and it's slightly different or it's altering. Then a little bit later, she actually like comes to terms with it and like starts trying to form a communication back with the thing. They start getting all buddy and stuff, and then it grabs her and throws her into the mirror world because it was all a ploy the whole time.
So it's like she had this imaginary friend,
Yeah.
Because she grew up, she grew out of it and stopped believing in it.
Yeah.
But like it was always in the back of her head that it was there, and then basically it starts talking to her again to make her believe enough again that it could actually grab her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe part of the like the beginning of this, that's where the car accident aspect pops in. She forgot about her childhood friend, and then like maybe that like as the memories start flashing back, she we realize that like she saw the blue the eye change in the in like a rear view mirror, caused the car accident. But that accident, like her amnesia and all that kind of stuff, if we're incorporating Home Sweet Home into this, woke her up to her old childhood friend even more.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just the blue eyes. Now like physical objects are changing on the appearance. And then as the story continues, like as she's like recollecting and gathering information more about it, like yeah, like there was some kind of like maybe traumatic situation that made her forget or made her think that her imaginary friend was more like a childhood fear when she was younger and such. So you could definitely play with this a lot more, like if you elaborated more on the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
So like that's honestly one of the reasons I like really like this is like there's a lot of potential here, and the what's here isn't it's short, and I do want more, absolutely. But what's here is just a classic like micropasta or like flash fiction. So yeah.
You are the true Disney princess in both of these.
Yes, of course.
Have you drawn yourself as a Disney princess yet?
Not yet. I'm sure that's going to happen. I'm going to have to draw all of us as Disney princesses, and like that'll have to be a t-shirt sometime.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Next Gen Con, we're just all we all end up wearing the t-shirts of our Disney princess versions.
Or just go in costume of that.
Oh God. Yeah.
I gotta get
a tiara like to edit and like some Disney princess attire for the cloak.
Sure, just like over a tiara of tentacles or something like that.
I'm sure that exists. Oh God.
Oh, sure.
But I digress.
That's not the story at all, though.
Nope. Mikey, the E stands for evil. Save us from ourselves. What are your actual thoughts about this story?
All right. So I have a quote here. She stared into her own eyes, and that's when she noticed it. Her reflection's eyes were bright blue. Jennifer blinked, thinking it was just a trick of the light. However, every time she looked into the glass, the blue-eyed reflection would appear for just a moment and then disappear, showing her real dark brown eyes. So, I didn't like this because the blue eyes are mentioned before we get her natural color. So, until it's revealed that her regular colored eyes are brown, I can't.
You couldn't visualize. Like, it's like what's so weird about all this?
Like, like I can't get into the character's shoes.
I get you. Yeah.
Or their eyes.
Yeah, I'll admit, like, it definitely. I think that could be a fix for the story is if like it was clarified like prior to the blue eyes revelation that like she had dark brown eyes. Like,
yeah. Like it established that she has brown eyes.
Though.
Yeah, you could also do that naturally in the story too.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
How would you do that naturally?
I
making Mikey improv the solution.
Well, not you specifically, either of you.
I gotta take a look, double check that part actually again.
Yeah, me too.
One day, many years later, as Jennifer was getting ready for bed, looking into her dark brown eyes, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the bathroom mirror, or maybe like she caught a glimpse in the bathroom mirror.
Her own dark brown eyes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. She stared into her own, or into her once dark brown eyes. And that's when she noticed it. Her reflection eyes were in fact bright blue.
Yeah, that's a really good way to do it. It's both in the same sentence too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely how I would probably correct that, or like make that more clear, that like of what her eye color was prior to the revelation that they were bright blue.
Yeah.
Because I kind of understand where you're coming from there, Mikey. It's like, yeah, like we get like the bright blue before and then it's like that's supposed to be the reveal, not the fact that her original eyes were dark brown. It's that those eyes have changed to bright blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the browns after, it's almost like the reveal is the fact that they were brown the whole time.
Yeah.
Which doesn't hit as hard, I feel.
Yeah, like I think I could see visually like how that would be represented in a story, in a movie, like in a movie scene. Like we just never see the character's like face until like we see it in the mirror reflection, and then she's like looking at her eyes, like realizing that they're blue, and then like maybe she blinks and like they suddenly go brown, and then it cuts around to her eyes, or like maybe they're blue in the reflection, and then the camera would like go around to actually see her face. Like freaked out and like weirded out by like her reflection, and it shows that her eyes are actually brown in real life, and not in the reflection. But for a story itself, I think you probably should have that the brown eyes are there before the revelation that they turn blue in the reflection.
Yeah, like give us the groundwork so that we can understand what the character is feeling. It's like, that's not right. Like, just
like, like it is.
Just
it is.
Say,
sorry,
look at this weird thing, and naturally it's this. Like,
well, because like I think I have if I recall correctly, I have like read that kind of thing in stories before, like where the person is like, no, it can't be like this. It can't be that color, and then like kind of leaving the reader to be like, well, why? Like, what's weird about this? And it's like, and then it's like, it can't be my eyes can't be blue because they're brown. I was like, oh, like kind of thing like that. Like I feel like I have read that in stories before, but like the way we're proposing it as a correction, I think is on the right path, at least for us. That makes sense for us.
Yep.
Because the whole focus of this is the blue eyes, so the blue eyes, I feel, should be the
revelation.
Yeah.
What a revelation!
What a revelation!
My eyes are blue. to take a inspiration from Liar Liar.
I've seen that in ages.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Gamer in Yellow, your actual thoughts.
Okay. So, I know you had your connective tissues time, but it wasn't really tied to you. So, connective tissues time. Specifically when it says, like, she used to think that monsters were lurking behind the glass, waiting to drag her into another world. So, funny thing, this week I sat down and experienced the game myhouse.wad.
Oh yeah.
And there's a mirror world in that has its own set of monsters.
Yeah,
you're
not wrong.
Monsters that you fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, for a second, I was like, I had my own experience. Beige. If anybody knows that reference or that VHS board game that we're referencing, you get a cookie, an internet cookie.
A digi-cookie.
Yes.
Did you get it? Then you get a digi-cookie.
Oh. God damn it.
Yeah. Also, myhouse.wad is awesome.
Yeah, I kind of want to cover it at some point because it's sort of a cool like ARG. I just don't know how to cover it, honestly, because we might have to get Matt from Drunk and the Ugly on it because he's actually the one that who forwarded it to me a couple of weeks ago. So,
but back to this.
Yep.
So, next quote: every time Jennifer looked at herself in the mirror, she felt a strange sense of unease. There was something off about her reflection, something that she couldn't quite put her finger on. So here's the thing: how would you know that something isn't right if this is the only reflection you've ever seen of yourself? You know, like
Oh
She's
God,
only
that
ever
is so.
seen her own self in a reflection. So how would you know that there's something weird that she's
Yeah.
always felt the whole time if that's the norm?
I mean, you can get the sense that you're being watched. Like that is a common like weird feeling that some people get, or like even a fear that people get is like the fear of being watched, and you kind of like you feel like the back of the hairs on the back of your neck prickle up as if you're being like looked at or like stared at by somebody.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I thought you were saying like, oh, like how could she like tell like the difference of things, because like the only way you can see yourself is through a reflection. Like even a film, like photos and stuff of that are a reflection of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is
exactly what I'm saying. Like,
it's very hard to like understand. Yeah, but like people do get the actual feeling of being watched or being stared at by like windows of or like mirrors and stuff and reflections. Like that is actually a paranoia and fear that people have.
Yeah, but that's not what she's talking about. She says that there's something off about her reflection. It's not that she's feels like she's being watched by a reflection, just that there's something off about it.
Is that in her childhood fear, or is that like in the?
Every time Jennifer looked at herself in the mirror, she felt a strange sense of unease. There was something off about her reflection.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Yeah. So like, well, I mean, again, that's part of that paranoia. Like, even if you're looking at yourself, that's part of disassociation. Is like you see your reflection, and for some reason in your mind, you get anxiety from looking at yourself because you think that it's looking back at you, like. And like not in like the natural, it's because it's a reflection, it's looking back at you because you're looking at it. Like no, like basically you're disassociating the mirror self from you.
Yeah, basically.
So, but yeah, that's actually a fairly common like anxiety and fear and paranoia that people exhibit. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Then this next quote: she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her reflection was talking to her. And it wasn't just a hallucination or a dream. It was real. So there's no proof that this isn't a dream or a hallucination yet at this point that I read this. Or hindsight, or after the fact, after reading the whole thing, there's also no proof. Because like unless there's a witness there, then yes, I would say it's real without a shadow of a doubt if the witness is also seeing the same thing happening.
Yeah.
But like, here's the thing. Even if there was someone there to witness it, and let's say they don't see anything weird, that doesn't mean that Jennifer is just seeing things / going nuts. Because whatever, like, it could be basically the same sort of thing that's happening in the previous story. Like, there's some supernatural creature or entity or whatever that's targeting Jennifer specifically with whatever effect it's giving her. So it's not just her going nuts. It could be something that is actually targeting her, or she's possessed and there's a creature, spirit, or whatever tormenting her. So it's not necessarily just seeing things for the sake of seeing things. There's something foul at play potentially. Yeah,
I think that comment that she has is like, it's not just a dream or a hallucination, it's real, I know it, is her like just kind of like trying to either confirm or reassure herself of her own sanity.
But if she wants to confirm it. Call someone over.
Yeah.
When you're out maybe and about, and like you're out with a friend or whatever, like there's ways to just like, talk to them and tell them that you're having some difficulties, and what do you see when you see a reflection? Like there's ways that she can prove it's not happening or is happening, but she does none of that.
Yeah, because that's something that should definitely get added to the longer version of the story.
Yep. And then my next and last one. The next day, Jennifer avoided the bathroom at all costs. She didn't want to risk seeing a reflection again. Going to be an awkward and messy day to avoid all bathrooms. In that case.
Yeah, I know. Or just like ignoring the reflection all the time.
Yeah. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, why don't you just get some spray paint and spray over the mirror, or take the mirror down? Later on, she does actually cover up the mirrors. But like, it's kind of weird that the first thing that she was going to try to do was just avoid all mirrors instead of like mirror proofing her house first.
Yeah, and not just
get there, so that's fine.
Yeah, and not just mirrors, also windows, because like windows do also give off a reflection.
Yeah, for sure.
So like now I'm just imagining her like walking down the street and like passing like a big pane of glass like for like a display and stuff like that, and just immediately put her hand up over like by her head like as if she's like trying to like avoid somebody.
Yeah, for sure. Basically walking with blinders on everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, at this point though, when she's first like avoiding the bathroom and all that, she's acting like there's something, like there's a real threat. Meanwhile, there is no threat at this point. She's just freaking out.
Yeah, she's overreacting.
Yeah, for sure. Which I guess is explainable, but
yeah, it's explainable and also kind of understandable. Like there are like that would be a freak out moment. It lasts a little too long before. Like I think by like the first week, if I was still doing that, I think at some point I would have maybe got the nerve to like try and talk to the mirror thing if it was still happening. Or again, seek psychiatric help.
Yeah, this is after the reflection like whispered her name, right?
Yeah, and then it said days turned to weeks, and she was still doing this stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like the first time it happens, she could just be imagining things, but I could see her freaking out like this on the second instance of it happening. That's my whole point here. I feel like she jumps the gun a little bit. Yeah. But again, that's me with my own sane thoughts approaching the situation and evaluating it. Me being in the moment, that's potentially a sanity breaking thing if it's, like depending on how it's portrayed and all that and what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So I can't really judge her too harshly. Yeah, that's the end of my notes until final thoughts, I suppose.
All right. Well, that's a good segue to final thoughts.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I liked this one a bit more than Home, Sweet Home. Though they both have similar themes, like reflections and like the mirror, something in the mirror and such that is not your reflection, or is your reflection is acting weird. And I think again, like I think my big takeaway and suggestion for this is that both of these stories be combined to make a larger, better whole. But even if this was just like standalone, I still actually would recommend this story because it, for what it is, a piece of fiction. I think this is a good piece of flash fiction of like something creepy is happening to somebody in with their reflection. So, but again, could combine it or elaborate more on it, of course, to make it better. But as it is, ain't bad. So I'm going to recommend it. Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. Well, I also like this better than the last one.
I'm actually curious now, which one came first? The chicken or the egg? Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So what I didn't like was that, like I said, the brown eyes weren't mentioned first when it's the normal eye color. Yeah. I like cultist's idea of them being sucked into the mirror world.
Like even as like if like it starts off as a buddy horror and then like it was actually a long from the creature inside the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay, like I'm not your buddy guy. Oh no! No! I thought you were my guy friend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as it is, it's a little creepier than the previous story, so I'm still gonna give this a partial recommendation. But as we stated, if there's just a bit more to it, it would get a full recommendation for me.
Gotcha. Also, just to kind of add on, so like I just checked the when these stories came out. So Home, Sweet Home came out in July of this year, 2023. Blue-Eyed Reflection came out in April of this year, 2023. So technically, we did read them in out of order, but they also could technically be like basically like the first one was like a the Blue-Eyed Reflection was a prequel to Home, Sweet Home. Like we were kind of proposing, like if they were combined, but also we read them in the way that we also proposed that they should be like formatted together, i.e., home, sweet home comes first, and then revealed through flashbacks, blue-eyed reflection. So, but yeah, Gamer, your final verdict.
Well, just like you two guys, I preferred this one more than the other one. And compared to the other one, this one describes the mirrors a lot better. They're very clear. They're not smudged or anything like that. So I had a clear visual of what was happening the whole time. There wasn't really any odd things for me to try to understand in this. Like, it all made sense. You know, it flowed pretty well. Just about the only thing I could ask for was clarification from an outside party about what she sees, if they see it too. I feel like that would add to it. And it doesn't necessarily need you to force your hand in the writing to make it so they do see it, because even if they don't see it, it can still be affecting her, you know?
Yeah.
But the big thing that's kind of bugging me with this, that is not making me fully recommend it, which is sort of connected to what I was just talking about with outside sources. The story is basically set up like Jennifer lives in a ghost town, and there's no interaction with anyone.
Oh, that's true.
And sure, maybe she doesn't want to talk to anyone about it because they'll think she's crazy, but there's ways around it. Like,
oh, I just had a really cool fucking idea because of what you just said.
Okay, go ahead.
What if we have this reversed? What if Jennifer / Nair / The Rock / the character from Home Sweet Home are in the mirror world, and they're looking at their true self in the reflection.
But why would the true self be saying creepy things like "come play with me"?
I don't know. It kind of falls apart now that you say that. Damn it.
That is a cool idea, though.
Yeah.
How like your reality is, it's kind of like the whole like we're living in a simulation sort of feel.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like the simulation. Yeah, or a little bit of Silent Hillish to a degree, like.
For sure. But yeah, like there are ways around mentioning it to, like, getting people to get the answer to you without specifically saying, I am having a hard time lately. Can you look at my reflection and tell me what color my eyes are? Like, instead of straight up saying that.
Hey man, look at my eyes. Are they brown or blue, sir?
Yeah, like
my bardic reigns supreme. No, sorry.
But yeah, she could just basically say stuff like, what color are my eyes? Brown? Odd. When I look in the mirror, they look blue to me. And then like look into a mirror or a window or something. But because you're talking to someone saying that, they would instinctively look in the mirror without you telling them to look in the mirror, and then they would respond in kind.
Yeah, or it's like, no, dude, your eyes are brown. Why are they blue in your reflection?
Yeah.
And then look at you, and they're brown. And it's like, or it's like, maybe it's like that dress from a couple of years back.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Like that could be added on as like part of the conversation, like part of the dialogue, and from an outside observer.
Yeah, and granted, this is meant to be a shorter story, so adding in a bunch of dialogue and characters just stretches it out a lot. But it did kind of feel like she's living in a vacuum.
Yeah. Well, and again, yeah, like you said, like that, you nailed it around the head. Like that's because the story is a piece of flash fiction, so it's just like they got down they weren't worrying about extra details. They wanted to get the main plot of the story down. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And granted as well, she's freaking out at this point for sure, a lot more than Nair was freaking out in the previous story. So I get why she's potentially not thinking as clearly as I am to try to think of ways to ask people. But I don't know, if this is such an obsession of hers, you'd think that she would have some sort of like thought process on trying to prove it one way or another instead of just suffering like she's doing.
Yeah.
Like some interaction with anyone would help. Even if you just say like, I talked to my mother about it, and she just doesn't believe me or something. Just any.
Yeah, or I've talked to people and they still don't believe or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and also like I can also understand people like suffering in silence because like again, as sad as the real world is, like that does happen. Like
Yeah,
people
it does.
people
I know
don't.
that all too well.
Yeah.
Anyways, what?
Yeah.
But
But yeah, so
I
your
get that.
recommendation, yeah.
Yeah, I still recommend it. Because the few things that I quote unquote didn't like about it aren't things that actually made me not enjoy the story. They're just ways that I could see to try to flesh the story out more. But in doing so, it makes the story bigger, which isn't the idea. So what's there is good, and I liked it. So yeah, I still recommend it.
All right. So for the Blue-Eyed Reflection, 2 full recommendations and 1 partial recommendation. Together, we get 2 full recommendations, 3 partial recommendations, and 1 non-recommendation for Home, Sweet Home, and the Blue-Eyed Reflection. So that will do it for this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're all on Twitter, so you can send us messages there. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to show the his username in a mirror, it might show a W.
Why?
Because it's a jab at what we've been talking about for the stories.
I don't understand.
Okay. Anyway,
It's like I wake up one morning, I check Twitter. Wait, there's a W. I blink,
What?
the W's gone.
Oh. Well, I mean, they do say that like your phone or your computer your computer monitor and stuff is like a black mirror. Hence why they call it Black Mirror, that show that's like kind of Twilight Zone-y. Anyway, I'm also there at Review Cultist. So you can send us messages there or talk to us there. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTS@gmail.com. Or you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky stories. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the back tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tiers. We have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void or into a mirror. And without your authorship, without these stories that you write and post online and look for constructive criticism and such, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. And I hope if you ever listen to this, Nicholas, we hope some of our comments or suggestions help if you ever decide to take these stories and make them into something bigger.
Or for future projects or what have you.
Yeah. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the East End Evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.